Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 10 of Conversations with Christal. And I am so excited. You guys are in for a big treat today because if you're a parent and your kid didn't sleep last night, you especially want to listen in. If you're feeling tired, overwhelmed, I am so pleased to have a pediatric sleep coach here with me, and her name is Joanna. And Joanna has actually, we'll talk more about this, but she has played a very important role in my household in getting us back on track when we were off the rails when my toddler was not sleeping. So, Joanna, welcome.
Thank you, Crystal. It's so wonderful to be here. I
I,
love talking sleep.
yes, I know you do, and you are an expert, one of the best at it. So I'm so happy that you made time in your busy calendar for us today. So I do have a couple of questions, like I always do whenever we have a special guest. But before I do that, just share a little bit about yourself with the listeners.
Sure. So I'm Joanna of Blissful Baby Sleep Coaching, and I am a gentle sleep coach, which we're definitely going to be talking about today so that everyone understands what that means. And
Yes.
I've been doing this for 10 years. And really, my passion began because many years ago, I had a daughter that was 9 months of old and she was not sleeping. She was
Mm,
nursing all night long. She wanted to co sleep. My husband was unable to assist me because she was so dominant with only wanting me. And
okay.
I just was utterly sleep deprived. I was overwhelmed. I was confused.
Mhm.
And, I didn't know where to turn for help.
Yeah.
And I was just really beside myself. So I went on a big search to solve this problem because I knew I needed my daughter to sleep independently, but I literally didn't know how to go about it. And I knew I needed it for my own sanity. And I
Yes.
knew she needed it because she wasn't even really sleeping that well, even though I was doing everything I possibly could to provide her what I thought was like the optimal circumstances for that.
Hmm.
So, long story short, I found Kim West, who at the time was one of the best sleep coaches, and she helped me through her book. And at the time, what she was offering 17 years ago, which was before the internet and before being able to like get on Zoom and
Yes.
all the services that are offered now. And she helped me solve that problem. And I just knew I wanted to help other moms never walk the walk that I was walking. I wanted to be that support system there for overwhelmed, sleep deprived parents so that they can solve their child's sleep struggles once and for all.
Yes.
And like Crystal said so aptly, like get your life back, right?
Yeah.
Because I know when Crystal came to me, she was starting her own business and it was big dreams, big aspirations, and yet the energy and the focus was being greatly diminished by really broken sleep cycles, her attending to her son all night long. And she's like,
Mhm.
can you help me? And I said,
Yes.
yes, because
Yes.
it is all children can learn the skills of sleep so that it's never too late. So if you're out there thinking, yeah, I've tried everything, I
Mhm.
just have learned to live with it. I just really encourage you to kind of come at this conversation today with an open mind,
Yes.
that it's never too late.
Yes, I'm so happy you said that because I think number one, there's probably someone listening who's like, wow, I didn't even know sleep coaches existed, number one.
Yeah.
And then number two, sometimes I feel like, especially with moms, there's probably some guilt, like I'm the mom, I should be able to help my baby sleep. There may be some hesitancy in regards to reaching out for help, but let me tell you, I had went 7 months straight and my son was 2, 7 months straight without a consistent night of like restorative sleep.
Mhm.
And let me tell everyone, full transparency, I had lost my mind. Like I literally had a mental breakdown because I was just completely sleep deprived and I needed to figure something out. And so really I came to Joanna and Joanna and I met in a coaching program. So I practice what I preach. I believe in coaching. Remember
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
But we met in a coaching program and I reached out to her and just said, I need help because I didn't know that someone like you existed. But the way that she worked with my husband and I to basically educate us on healthy sleep habits and showing us like what we needed to change and what we were doing. Like we were putting him to bed too late. We were pacifying his crutches, like going back in the room 4 or 5 times after we put him down for bed.
Mhm.
And she's just amazing, everyone. So I'm just really happy for what you're going to hear in today's show, because you need to hear this information, especially this is good for all parents, but especially if you are building a business or if it's a side hustle or even if it's your full-time thing. No matter what, your household needs sleep, right, Joanna?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, I remember Christal. Okay, so you guys remember, she's saying she went 7 months
Yes.
with sleep deprivation. Um, Husband was trying to helping. It was really difficult because
Mm-hmm.
your son was doing the mommy preference thing where it had to be
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yes.
And you weren't feeling yourself anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
we worked together and we solved the problem in under 2 weeks.
Yes, we did.
So she sacrificed seven
Mm-hmm.
months of her life
Mm-hmm.
when in 2 weeks the problem was solved.
Yes.
So this is when you go back to moms feel like either they can't be helped or they feel guilty for asking for help or they don't think they
Yeah.
should ask for help. I just want to make a plea.
Yes.
Please know that there is help and hope available. You have
Mm-hmm.
to find the right person that
Right.
meets your kind of your family values and how they work with you so that you can get the results you need.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, Christal sacrificed 7 months of her life to then realize that she could get help, and in under 2 weeks, her everything was restored back to harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And I have families that work with me. I work with children up to 6 years of age. I have families that have literally been living like you were living for 5 years.
Oh, it just pains me to
And they
think about it.
finally decide, I can no longer do this. This is
Yeah.
completely unsustainable in every single way possible. All my relationships are falling apart. My work life is
Yes.
falling apart. Um, I kind of resent my child because I'm
Mhm.
so exhausted all the time.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait 5 years.
No.
They don't just magically grow out of it and become a perfect sleeper. That's a big misconception.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I'm so happy that you mentioned that. Like, it's important to get help and to really become educated as the parent. So that
Yes.
way you can, in turn, help your little one have healthy sleep habits. And one other thing that I really want to make clear is that Joanna and I have never met in person.
Right.
Everything was done via Zoom. We
Yes.
had scheduled meetings that my husband and I would sit on Zoom, and Joanna gave us some homework to do, where we did have to like log some things of what we were doing, when we were doing it, that type of thing. And me especially, I just was so desperate. I was like, we are going to do these meetings, and my husband was on board as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I was in desperation, and everything that Joanna told us to do, we implemented within like 24 hours of a call with her. We were implementing what she told us to do because it was just that important, and everything done by Zoom. Okay. So you don't have to meet her in person to get this relief.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, yeah, I work with families all over the country. Yes.
Yes,
Yes. And
absolutely.
and for the last 10 years. And
Mhm.
really the benefit of Zoom has been that, we used to do the old-fashioned way by phone. So I used to just work
Yeah.
strictly by phone. Then we went over to Skype and FaceTime, and now we're on
Yes.
Zoom, which is even easier, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So the first question is, I just want you to educate our listeners a little bit about, we know that you work with newborns to 6 years of age. What exactly is a gentle sleep coach?
Okay. Well, I think before I answer what is a gentle sleep coach, I
Mhm.
think it's important to even answer the question is like, what is sleep training?
Okay,
And what is
perfect.
sleep
Yeah.
coaching? Because when someone says I'm going to sleep train my child, there's a lot of definitions of what that is. So
Okay.
I'm going to define it the way I view it,
Perfect.
because I feel like it's the proper presentation for our conversation today, or
Yes.
proper foundation for our conversation today. So, what is sleep training? So, here's the thing: the word sleep training or sleep coaching can often have a negative connotation, and most
Mhm.
people will think, oh my gosh, if I sleep train my child, oh my gosh, I have to leave them to cry it out.
Mm.
And they have this terrible, horrifying image of putting their child in the crib or the bed, closing the door, and hoping for the best, and having a lot of crying and drama. Okay.
Yes, that's
So
so
I want
controversial.
everybody that's shuddering, even thinking about that, because it actually makes my heart palpate. Because
Yeah.
first of all, I do not believe in cry it out at all. So I want to
Mhm.
make that infinitely clear. And I also want you to know that um, that oftentimes cry it out in the way I just described it doesn't really work for families.
Mhm.
Um, it doesn't stick. It might work for a week or two, and then it the child regresses again.
Okay.
What I want everyone to really understand is a broader scope of what is a healthy sleep habit.
Mhm.
Because until you understand what sleep is, it gets difficult for you to understand what methodology you're going to use to get there.
Yeah.
So, although sleep is a biological need, it is also a learned skill.
Mhm.
And there are 3 skills a child needs to learn: self regulation, self settling, and self soothing.
Okay.
3 separate skills that need to be used in tandem and
Okay.
in sequence. Okay. So, those of you that have older babies, like 6 months and up, because I'm really right now, I'm speaking to all mothers that have children 6 months and up,
Mhm.
that you have to be viewing sleep as a learned skill.
Mhm.
So just like you saw your child learn how to roll,
Yeah.
just like you saw your child learn how to stand and how to walk, those are also biological needs that
Mhm.
every child will learn how to do.
Yeah.
But as a parent, you have to create the right circumstance and environment for your child to learn how to roll, to learn how
Mhm.
to stand, to learn how to walk. And there's a lot of practice, practice, practice
Yes.
until mastery.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to start viewing sleep through that same lens of learned skill. So all sleep training is truly all. It's not something scary, it's not
Mhm.
something bad to do to a child. It is actually the most beautiful thing you can offer your child, because really what it is you're creating the optimal environment and the optimal circumstances using sleep science and behavioral science
Mhm.
as a way to help your child learn those 3 foundational skills: self regulate, self settle, self soothe. And
Yes.
you're learning for them how to do that at the onset of sleep at bedtime, so they can begin to start learning it at every arousal point all night long, which are your
Mhm.
non-nursing arousals. You do
Mhm.
not have to give up nursing in order to sleep train.
Yeah.
And once your child knows how to do it at night, they can then have a higher probability of doing it successfully at nap time.
At nap time. Okay.
So it is a learned skill that takes time for the proper environment and the proper circumstances and the proper methodology in which you will help your child learn this. So that goes back
Mhm.
to your original question, which is, what is a gentle sleep coach? A gentle sleep coach is a specific methodology
Okay.
of how to go about teaching your child their sleep skills.
Okay.
Okay. So, like, think of music lessons, right? Like, there's Suzuki method, which is a very specific methodology on how to learn piano and violin.
Mhm.
And then there's the traditional way, which is more about learning how to read music versus hear music.
Okay.
Are both children going to learn music through either Suzuki or
Yeah.
the traditional, like, learn music notes? Yes.
Right.
It's a matter of determining what methodology best meets your parenting values
Mhm.
and the temperament of your child, to
Yeah.
determine what container you want to build for that optimal circumstance and environment.
Yeah.
So there's 3 methodologies. So I want to define them for you guys so that you're not mixing terms, because Mixing terms also means you're probably mixing methodologies in your implementation.
Oh, that's important to know. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So there's three methodologies. The first is the traditional cried out that
Okay.
was developed and designed by Dr. Weisbluff.
Okay.
Okay. And that is called full extinction. That's kind of the behavioral science component. The second type of methodology is called was devised by Dr. Ferber.
Mhm.
It's also known as Ferberizing or using timed checks.
Okay.
The behavioral science definition is considered graduated extinction. And the third methodology was designed by Kim West,
Mhm.
who wrote this book, Good Night, Sleep Tight.
Yes, I remember you
It's an
recommending us.
awesome book, you guys.
Yeah.
It's like the Bible. And what I love about this book, you guys, you do not have to read the whole thing. Um, it's got a fabulous index, and it's divided by age and stage, and it's divided by problem. So if you have a problem, you can just go to that section, or if you have
Yes,
a specific age of a child, you go to that section. So it's a wonderful book to have on your shelf for reference.
it really is.
So
Okay.
Kim West, the third methodology is Kim West. It's also known as the Sleep Lady Shuffle, also known as the chair position, and the behavioral science term is called fading.
Fading. Okay.
So as a gentle sleep coach, I adhere to the Kim West philosophy
Mhm.
because a parent is in the room
Mhm.
with the child while the child is learning how to regulate, settle, and soothe. And you have the ability to pick up, to pat, to be available to your child, both in a physical sense and presence to
Mhm.
help them, to create that optimum environment for learning.
Okay.
Um, and so we call it gentle sleep coaching because it's a very supportive process. It
Mhm.
is very geared towards, my whole philosophy in working with families is it's based on sleep science, behavioral science, and attachment theory.
Okay.
So because a parent is in the room with the child is very attachment oriented,
Mhm.
because you were there witnessing and assisting the learning process.
Got it. Okay. This is really helpful. And thank you for breaking those three methodologies down. And that actually kind of leads me into my next question because you brought up something that's really important to be very familiar with these methodologies. So that way you're not cross, right?
Yes.
Um, mixing different steps within the methodologies. And I'm sure that ends in basically no result in regards to, or not the result that you want, in regards to sleep habits. So, like, what's the number one mistake you see parents make when it comes to sleep habits?
Okay. Well, tagging on that comment you just made, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Um, okay, because sleep training is again creating it's a learning experience. Okay.
Hmm.
Again, you got to get really tight in your head. I am teaching my child a new skill.
Yes.
We do not expect children to learn how to stand in 2 days or to learn how to walk in 2 days. Why would we ever expect
Yeah.
that our child would instantly, randomly learn by themselves,
Mhm.
or that if we started sleep coaching them, that we would instantly, randomly have it fully complete and perfect like we want it within 2 to 3 days? No, because
Yeah.
it's a learned skill. So I would say that the number one mistake that families make is not preparing in
Hmm.
advance
Okay.
around sleep training.
Okay.
So if you're in a situation and you're like, oh my gosh, my child is not a good sleeper, this is no longer sustainable to our family, I
Hmm.
think I need to teach them their sleep skills. Okay,
Hmm.
that's like awareness number one. Is the way your lifestyle with your child, is the sleep lifestyle with your child working for you? That's really the
Okay.
first step, right?
Yes.
The second step is like, okay, if it's not working for you, it's like, okay, we need to do some sleep training.
Yes.
And so around the sleep training, you have to recognize it's going, depending on the age of your child and how long the sleep struggles have been going on, it could take anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks for resolution.
Okay.
So the big mistake I see for families is that they just wake up one morning, or worse, at 7 p.m. when their child's not asleep, they just go, I'm going to start sleep training. And they just
Mm.
randomly cry it out one night, and then the next night try
Yes.
Ferber, and then the next night try the chair position, and then the next night call their friend Tina who tells her to do whatever. And what you're doing, what you're doing at bedtime is is different than you're doing in the middle of the night, and you really are not on the same page with your partner, and you really
Right.
do not have a very methodical, thought out implementation plan, like
Yes.
Christal said earlier, like implementation, right? So when you go to sleep train, you need to say, this is a decision we're making as parents, that we want to
Yes.
help our child learn their sleep skills. Now that we've decided as a family that this is what we want to make as a priority, how are we going to do it? Are we going to do it by
Mhm.
using a book? And if so, which methodology are we going to choose?
Mhm.
And then, or are we going to hire a coach to help us? Like, so
Right.
you have to ask, like, how are we going to do it? Who are we going to do it with? And then the third thing is, when are we going to start doing this, so that we
Mhm.
have the 2 to 3 weeks to focus on this, so that we do it well, and we
Right.
do it once, and it lasts. Like,
Yes.
it lasts. And so the mistake that people make is they don't go into this with any kind of planning or preparation. They
Mhm.
haven't gotten on the same page with their spouse or their
Yes.
partner, and everything is just willy-nilly. And what happens, you guys, the reason why this is such a massive mistake is you actually by accident train your baby to cry, or your child to cry,
Mm. Oh, wow, that's powerful.
because the inconsistency of how you attend to them at bedtime in the middle of the night, when you are randomly implementing different methodologies without really understanding how the whole thing works as a learning process,
Yes.
then you just train them to cry, because
Yeah.
they don't understand what you're trying to do, because nothing you're offering them is consistent.
Mm.
And a lot of families will come to me and they'll say, I have tried everything and nothing has worked.
Mhm.
How would it be that you would be telling me something different, or guiding me differently than what I've done over
Uh-huh.
the course of several years, or whatever? Um, and, you know, with that's always a tough question, right? Because they might have really honestly tried their best.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yes.
but I'm all about looking at every element of your life, along with what's happening in the sleep life with your child and the temperament, to really put together a sleep plan that both parents feel really comfortable and confident executing, and that the
Yes.
logistics of the household can help with implementation, so that over the course of methodical implementation, we step it out until we get the results.
Right.
So
No, that's good. And it's interesting because one thing too that I want to point out, when we were working with Joanna with our toddler son, one thing that I really appreciated in her process was how he was really at the center of her plan for us. Like, she really wanted to understand his personality, the best that we could describe it as parents, that type of thing. And that was something that just really put me at ease as a mom, that this was something that we were creating uniquely for him, but that, was something that my husband and I were definitely on board to doing, because we want to teach him this skill. And then I want to go back to what you were saying. The first step is, when you're on this journey to figuring out, sleep. And I think that first step, when you say is awareness, I think everyone gets that. They get that quickly, right? They're like, okay, something's definitely wrong. We're not sleeping. And so
mhm.
we know we need to figure something out. I think it's just that second step where probably, parents start, like you just said, trying everything, or just kind of giving up and not really having a plan. And I think too, and tell me what your thoughts are on this, not only are they not maybe making a plan and being intentional with it, but they're not giving themselves enough grace. They're not being patient with themselves or with the baby. Like you said, it's not overnight. It's something that takes, 2 to 4 weeks. And so give yourself patience,
Right.
or be patient in the process.
And also with that, when I say 2 to 4 weeks, I don't want someone to go, oh my God, I can't even survive another 3 days.
Yeah.
Every single night you're going to see improvement.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
often liken sleep coaching as a diet, right? So if you really, really want to lose those 10 pounds and you want to keep them off, you are going to you're going to make tremendous lifestyle changes. Not only, and be consistent so that those pounds come off bit by bit and then they stay off because you've transitioned,
Yeah.
versus going on a crash diet. Yeah, you might lose those 10 pounds before the 25-year high school graduation reunion,
Right.
but they'll be right back at the end of the weekend, right? Because you didn't make sustainable changes that can give you a lasting, right? So
Yes.
it's again, it goes back to methodology, right? I can lose 10 pounds one way and I can lose 10 pounds another way. It
Yes.
depends on what, what I'm needing it for, and then executing it flawlessly in order to, or not flawlessly, but being consistent with how I implement it so that I can get the result.
Yes. This is such a good conversation. And before I let you go, I do have one more question. So give our parents who are listening right now, give us 3 strategies. Like, no, give us like 2 strategies. I want to make it real simple and something that we can remember. 2 strategies that we can implement with our little ones before we start the process of even, you know,
Right.
yeah,
Right. So
right.
before, like, so again, whether or not you are, kind of feeling desperate like Christal was, or you're kind of like seeing the whispers of something, the best thing to do is to first understand, from a sleep science point of view, the specific age and stage of your child and what the daytime and nighttime sleep expectations are for that age and stage.
Okay.
Because that really helps you give kind of a foundation, a snapshot of what is possible,
Okay.
and what you can be working towards.
Yeah.
So in fact, in the show notes, Christal will have this, but I do have an age and stage sleep chart that literally
Yes.
gives you the specific age and stage for daytime and nighttime, and also wakefulness windows. This is invaluable because you'll understand all the different transition points from 3 naps to 2 naps, and 2 naps to 1 nap, and
Mhm.
how long between nap cycles, and all these things that will really help you understand what you're working towards.
Yes.
And then the other thing I think that's really important is just really understanding how hormones can relate to sleep, and
Okay.
how you can use the power of sleep science to help you discern the right timing to be able to put your child to sleep. So I'm just going to briefly explain that there's 2 hormones that regulate sleep. There's melatonin, which is your
Mhm.
drowsy hormone, and there's cortisol, which is your wakefulness hormone.
Mhm.
And before a sleep cycle, if we were just talking about basic like onset of sleep at bedtime, melatonin comes on board right here. And then right here, it's really optimal. This is where it's really, really easy for a baby to fall asleep, and you guys stay asleep. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes. That's what
you
we
want
want.
you want the optimal window because you want them to fall asleep peacefully and you want them to stay asleep. And
Yes.
so what happens is melatonin comes on board before bedtime or nap times, and it comes on and it's strong, and then it starts to dissipate. And as you dissipate, you have less of that hormone operating in your favor, and you pass into what I call yellow or red zone, which I'll come back to. And then literally what happens is melatonin as a hormone literally shuts off. It's like a dam just goes and the wall
Wow.
comes down. And what gets surged into the body is cortisol, which is the wakefulness hormone or mild form of adrenaline. And this is where you're going to have the experience of your child being really wired and tired. This is why I made the jagged.
Yes.
You might also have the experience of your child being really goofy, especially if
Yes.
you had like a 2-year-old. Christal had a 2-year-old, and he was
Yeah.
laughing and
Mhm.
jumping off the bed and jumping on the bed and,
Yes.
giggling and rolling around. And it looks fun. And you think, oh, this kid's so funny, he's so happy that we're all together. Dad's home from work and he's so happy. But in fact, he's just all jacked up in cortisol land. That's
Yeah.
what I call it. And when
Mhm.
you hit cortisol land, they're there for 45 to 90 minutes.
Wow.
So for a lot of families, they end up trying to start bedtime down here in the red zone. And by the time they finish bath, they are bathing in cortisol land. And then any
Right.
attempts to try to get the child to go to sleep becomes a fight.
Yes.
And you, as the parent, will have to use a lot of sleep crutches to help the baby go to sleep. So you have to hold or rock or lay down with or sing to them, or all of these sleep crutches, which is defined as anything that has to be done to or for a child at the onset of sleep. They will want that same support at every arousal cycle all
Yes.
night.
Yes.
So, understanding where your child looks like and acts like in the blue zone versus the yellow versus the red. I can tell you guys that when they're in the red, they are already rubbing their eyes and they are yawning.
Mhm.
So, those of you that are starting the bath while they're rubbing their eyes and thinking that's the right cue, you're actually too late.
Yes.
Um, Yellow can be difficult to discern, but but the sleep chart I gave you guys, it will show wakefulness windows so that you can start watching your child like a hawk to start to determine what do they look like and act like in blue,
Yeah.
what do they look like and act like in yellow, we know that this is rubbing eyes and yawning, we know this is hyper or wired and
Mhm.
tired, so then you can work backwards and start to look to find out your child's right sleep cues. A lot of
Yes.
times in the blue zone, they'll have like red above the eyebrows, rosy cheeks, red rimmed eyes, or maybe a glazed look, or they'll start
Mhm.
getting a little bit of irritability. That's blue zone. That's when you actually want to be like in a dimly lit room in the blue zone. You do
Yeah.
not want to be doing bath. You want to be finishing your bath program,
Yes.
down in here, so that you don't get down here. Because when you get down here, the child is going to demand more from you around bedtime.
Yes.
So hopefully the sleep chart, along with just this really brief explanation, will help you guys just get a better understanding.
Oh, Joanna, it's gold. And it's opening because you bring out that chart. And remember, for those of you listening to the podcast version, the video version is on the YouTube channel, Christal Allen. Just Christal Allen, and you'll see Joanna and I here, and you'll get to see everything that she's showing on her screen. But I remember you sharing that diagram with us, and we were definitely starting things when he was in cortisol land. And the crutches, we were so involved in that. We have to go in and put on lip stuff, and then he wanted a sip of water, and he wanted extra prayer, and he wanted his socks on, and then he wanted just on and on.
Yep.
And then also something else that we were doing that you caught us on, sometimes my husband and I would go in there together. We thought that that was going to help if there's like two of us in there. And so it was such an education working with you, but it was more than I could have ever asked for. And so everyone, I really want to make sure that you check out the show notes and get a copy of those free resources that Joanna is
Yeah.
providing. Yeah. And
And
go
and
ahead.
and also, you guys, those of you that are like, you know what, my child's a great sleeper. I sleep train them. We're good, but oh my gosh, we just hit a regression. My child got sick, we
Mm,
regressed, or they went into a milestone and they regressed. If you go to the show notes, my website, Blissful Baby Sleep Coaching, if you go to the contact me page, on there you can request to speak to me, if you really need to talk about your unique situation. But if you wanted information on regressions, on how to unravel a regression, if you previously had a good sleeper and now you're regressed, there's
yeah.
a really good handout there that you can request, and I'll send you a regression handout. Or those of you that just want more information about sleep, I'm going to be doing some workshops coming up here, on specific ages, like 6 to 12 months and 12 to 24 months. And if you want to get on the wait list to be notified of those, you can go to the contact me page and check that box. But really, it's all about education, and then
Yes.
deciding when to do it and working hand in hand with your partner, and
Yeah.
just knowing that any sleep situation can always be solved. And I really want to leave you guys with all that hope,
Yeah.
because there's never been a case that's come to me that I haven't been able to resolve.
Yeah.
And it's because if it's a learned skill, that's like assuming that your child will never learn an important life skill. And that's not a good way to look at your child. Like, you want to look at your child with complete possibility. My
Yes.
little guy, with my support and love, and creating that right environment and circumstance, I can help my little one learn lifelong healthy sleep habits. And it's never too late, you guys. I just really want you to know that. And there is help to be had, but
Yeah.
you just want to do your research. And if you decide to use a coach, you want to interview several coaches, because everyone has different ways of coaching.
Yeah.
And the different ways of coaching is so important to be able to figure out if that's the way you and your family want to be coached. You know, do you want email coaching? Do you want text coaching? Do you want a digital program? Do you want to talk to someone? So don't assume that all coaches are the same, and
Yeah.
don't assume that all coaches are using the methodology you prefer. You have to do your research, and you have to ask a lot of questions so you
Yeah.
can find the right fit.
Well, I am so happy you ended this conversation on, like you said, such a hopeful note. And I want to repeat what Joanna said. She has never encountered a sleep situation that she was not able to help the parents through. So don't think that, okay, I've tried everything and we'll just take this day by day because I know that I can't get help. I want you to know that Joanna really is such a resource here. And if you are willing to consider hiring a sleep coach, please put Joanna at the top of your list. That's just my personal recommendation, because she really did just transform our household and really just kind of in many ways brought me back to life. So,
And I'm so
Joanna,
glad. And that's why she's here doing a podcast, you guys. This
that's
would never
right.
have been in the wheelhouse. She was too tired to think about executing something like this. So we have the best of Christal, because now her son is sleeping beautifully and reliably.
And
That's
reliably,
reliably
this is the truth. Thank you.
awesome.
Well, Joanna, thank you so much for just joining us today. And remember, everyone, in the show notes, I'll be sure to, number one, make sure that you have the links to both of the free resources that she mentioned today, and then also just her general contact information, her website, that type of thing. But thank you, everyone, for listening today. And remember, you got this, and I believe in you. All right, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Christal.